Good morning, Vancouver Vineyard. Thanks for joining me. My name is Johnny Clark. I'm the kids pastor here at the church, and today I will be sharing my thoughts on Acts chapter 5. Okay, so right off the bat, in Acts chapter 5, we are introduced to, in my opinion, one of the most troubling passages in the whole Bible, and that is the story of Ananias and Sapphira. So it looks like the story is put in here in direct contrast to a few verses earlier with Barnabas, because Barnabas sells some land and lays the proceeds at the apostles' feet, and then Ananias does the same thing. He sells some land and lays it at the apostles' feet, but he keeps some of the proceeds to himself. So it looks like he's trying to cash in on some of that glory that Barnabas got. He's like, I want in on that too. But as we know, he doesn't lay all the proceeds down, and then Peter calls him out on it. He says, why has Satan filled your heart? You have not lied to man, but you have lied to God. And what's really interesting here is that Peter says, like, you didn't have to do this. Like, it was your land. You didn't have to sell it. You didn't have to give us the proceeds. And but the lie here is Ananias making it seem like he's sacrificing a lot more than he actually was. And so Peter calls him out, and then it says that Ananias breathes his last breath and then dies, which is honestly just shocking to me, because if it doesn't seem like that punishment quite fits the crime, in my opinion, and it's just not quite cohesive to what we learn about Jesus in the Gospels, with being like loving and caring and forgiving. And then here we see Ananias tell a lie, and then he dies for it. And some people say that this wasn't God's punishment, that this was Ananias just becoming so afraid of what he did that his heart just couldn't take it, and so he died. But then I've read some people say that this was God's punishment. So I can see both sides of the argument, but I honestly don't know. And that's my whole deep, profound reflection on this story, is I do not know. It's troubling, and it probably will be troubling for a long time, because I don't, it's just tricky. It's just a tricky passage. And then in the next section, we see many signs and wonders done. And I think that this is just a short little image of to tell the reader what's going on with the early church and how much momentum they have, and how they are going forward, and God is doing amazing things, and people are brought in. And one really cool verse that sticks out to me is verse 14. It says, "And more than ever believers were added to the Lord, multitudes of both men and women." And I just love that language, because it says that people were being added to the Lord. And not added to a movement or added to a cause, but they were being added to the Lord Himself. So the Lord was actually spreading and growing in His kingdom. So that just kind of stuck out to me, and I'll probably be thinking on that for a bit. And then in this last section, we see that the apostles were arrested, and then they were freed. And again, I think that this is also in there to communicate just the tremendous amount of favor that the apostles had during this time, and God was there, and God's hand was in this, and he was going to spread the word of Jesus no matter what, opposition, no matter what the authorities say. Like God was doing what He was going to do. And then one cool verse in here that really stuck out to me that I will be thinking on for a while is verse 19. And this is after the apostles were put in prison. It says, "But during the night, an angel of the Lord opened the prison doors and brought them out and said, 'Go and stand in the temple and speak to the people all the words of this life.'" And this is just amazing to me, because the apostles weren't freed just for freedom's sake, and they weren't freed just to like run for the hills and to run away, but they were freed for a purpose, and they were freed to go back and continue to preach the word of God, and to spread Jesus's name. And to me, this has great application, because I think that we are also called to the same thing. Like, when we ask for God to free us from things, I don't think it's just so that we can be free, but I think it's so we can be freed for a purpose, and that is to just tell people like what God has done for us, and how amazing Jesus is, and how He can set other people free too. And then this section ends with a really cool story about a Pharisee named Gamaliel, and how they were trying to figure out if they should kill the apostles or not. And then Gamaliel speaks up and he says, "Hey, look, like you don't want to go against God here. So if this is of man, just let it happen, and it will essentially just over time fade out. But if this is of God, it will grow, and we will know that it's of God. So like, don't take any action. Just wait and see, kind of thing, you know." And as we know, they waited and they saw, and then here we are today. The church has grown; it's huge. God's hand was definitely in it. And I think that is just a great bookend to this chapter, because it communicates that yes, God was a part of this, and and he had favor on the early church, and nothing was gonna stop him. And so that is my reflection on Acts chapter 5. Thank you so much for joining me. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. So have a good rest of your day.